Hey guys, it's Mr. Mini Painter, and today I'm painting Horace Slughorn from the Harry Potter Wizarding Duels game by Knight Models. He's the potion master of Hogwarts and seen in the last few movies of Harry Potter. Now if you like these kind of videos, please subscribe to the channel and leave a comment below. I would love to hear from you. Now before we start painting, I primed the model in a grey tone. You can use black or grey or whatever you prefer. I usually use a lighter undercoat when painting brighter colors, but it's up to you. Basically, the results are more or less the same. It's all in very tiny details. So I'm starting off with the face with Bugman's Glow. The face and his hands, of course. Make sure to thin down your paint, not too much because you want a consistency and not translucency. And if you made it too thin, go over it twice. Too thick of a paint is really bad for your models, especially with these tiny details. You don't want to smear in the wrinkles or the eyelids or whatever, especially when these are so nicely done. Next layer I'm doing is Cadian Flesh Tone, and I'm covering most of the face and hands with Cadian Flesh Tone, leaving those tiny recesses dark with the Bugman's Glow. And this way you create a natural shade. And a good way to do this is to thin down your paint and do like a wash. And how you do it is you kind of pull the paint towards where you want it to be. You have to do it a couple of times, as the same with the new third layer, Kislev Flesh. Use it to highlight it and try and pull some color towards where you want it. So thin down your paint, and for example when you want to paint a knuckle, you want to accentuate the bone leading towards the knuckle maybe, or the tip of the nose. So thin it down, go over it maybe 2-3 times. You get the best results. Now I decided to do a extreme highlight Kislev Flesh mixed with Palette Witch Flesh, and just touched the lip, the tip of the nose, the knuckles itself, to make them stand out a little bit more. The cheekbone, the top of the ear. It's all in the details with these models. Now I decided to wash the entire face with a very thin down Raglan Flesh shade. You don't want to smear in those details or cover up your paint, and you don't want any dark spots from those washes. Next, the hair I did with Storm Vermin Fur as a base layer. It's a nice gray, but it has some brown tones in it. So you get a nice old gray look. I then highlighted that with Gray Sear. And the details on the hair of Slughorn are very precise. So you can hold your brush sideways like this and stroke the hairs as you go up and down like this, or left and right, whatever you're holding your model. And you can see that you're picking out the hairs very easy. Make sure there's not too much paint on your brush. Just pick them out like this. Now you might think that the dark gray is a bit too dark for Slughorn, as he's mostly a silver fox, right? So what I did here is I mixed some Gray Sear with Lamium Medium, and this way you create a wash of a light gray, and I used that to wash the entire hair. So the dark gray will be a tiny tone brighter, but you still have some differentiation in the tones of gray, which gives you a great result. In the end, I did the eyes with Palette Witch Flesh, as we're finishing up the face. Just make some horizontal moves with your brush, or hold it like this and you can go up and down. If you're afraid to do the eyes, you can probably best do them in an earlier stage. That way you can correct it with some skin flesh tones. Then the pupils with some Abaddon Black. And that's it for the eyes. And that's it for the face. So you should have something like this. I like the funny look on his face. Next I went on with the shirt with Ushabti bone. It's just a very small part of the model. His collar, it goes around his neck for a very tiny part, visible. So make sure to take that. Afterwards I'm highlighting it by mixing Ushabti bone with some palette witch flesh. And I more or less do the entire shirt again, just to brighten it up a little bit. You can leave some parts darker. For example, the edges closest to the side of the coat. It's like a natural shade. Now once done, I am washing it with some Seraphim Sepia. Make sure to thin that down as well. You don't want any dark brown blotches on your shirt. And I continue with Mournfang Brown. And Mournfang Brown I did for the inner suit and his pants. It's quite a bright color, but he has some very funny pattern on his inner suit. So I start off quite bright, and the details are going to darken it down a little bit. I'm making some horizontal lines with Elysian green on the pants and the vest. Take your time for this. This is quite a precision job, so don't rush it. You want a nice end result. Make sure the lines are more or less evenly thick. And try and follow the natural shape of the clothing. So the pants is wrinkled here and there. Try and follow those lines, so that the parts that you see they're in a logical place. So they might go down or up or... Next I created some vertical lines with Abaddon black to make a nice pattern. Again, take your time. This is a quite long and tedious job, but the results are worth it. After I finished, I took some Seraphim Sepia again and I washed the entire previously painted part of the suit. Then onto some Rhinox hide for the shoes. Then the tiny bow tie I painted with Caliban green. It's a very fun detail on this model that gives even extra color to him, even though he's quite colorful as he is. I then used Elysian green to highlight the bow tie. Just focus on the top parts and the very edges to make it pop out just a little bit more. And we're then continuing with Fondia Brown for the majority of this model, which is his coat. Or cloak, how do you call it? It's not really a coat, is it? I went a little bit off camera here, but you get it. It's the majority. Then I highlighted it with some Steel Legion drab. Here I focused on the edges, and I painted quite a big part of the model with these highlights. All the top parts of folds, the shoulders, sleeves, etc. Next I decided to add some color by mixing Deathclaw Brown with Steel Legion Drab to give it a little bit more of an orangey look. Just focused on the very tops and bottoms, of course, of the edges. After then, I mixed some Steel Legion Drab with Lamia Medium to thin it down, make a wash. I think about a 2:1 ratio, 2 parts Lamia Medium, and applied it as a wash over the entire model. And this way you get the different tones of brown, the dark brown shining through a little bit, but the overall result will be a little bit brighter, as you can see here. I then took Baneblade Brown for the wand. Kept it quite simple, actually. You can add some highlights if you want. Next, Lead Belcher for the tiny metal details on his chest. There's a chain hanging there, I think with a pocket watch or something like that, and some buttons on his shirt. And I very carefully picked them out. You don't want to ruin the suit. And that was, for me, was the most fun, was the vial he's holding. Lupercal green as a base color. It's like a bluish green, or a greenish blue, I'm not really sure. But a nice base coat for the vial. And after this, I'm using Warpstone Glow to create some bubbles. So I put some dots of paint here and there. I'm sorry it's a bit out of focus, but you get the idea probably. You can go all around the vial and add some of those details here and there. And I decided to go for a second color, Mood Green, to create a highlight within the bubble, or maybe a glow of sorts. So add some extra specks. You get a great result. After so, I mixed Palette Witch Flesh to the Lupercal Green to create a shiny highlight on the bottom and top of the vial. And I especially did it afterwards so that you can paint over the colors if you want. Next, to give it a shiny look, Coelia Green shade. This way all the colors blend together quite nicely and it gives it kind of a shiny effect on the vial. Which you want, because it's glass. Then onto the base, Steel Legion Drab as a base color. I use it for most of my Harry Potter models because it kind of resembles the Hogwarts floor. Shade it with some Agrek Earthshade. If you want, you can highlight it with some Rock Art Flesh. I didn't do so for this model though. I used some Lupercal Green, I used for the vial also, to create a nice color effect on the floor. Make it a little bit more interesting, like it's glowing or... otherwise all these bases are more or less the same. And that's it for Horace Slughorn. I hope you liked this video. Again, please consider subscribing to the channel if you like these kind of videos. I'm uploading regularly, and that way I can keep you posted. Leave a comment, please. I'd love to hear from you, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos. Bye bye!